For example, assume that I'm having the contact object. And in this contact object, I'm having some contact record. So now this contact record is associated with an account. This contact object is associated with an account record. So now at that time, we are going to be creating the contact record by providing all the fields, and this contact is associated with an account. Now this contact record will be holding the field values of the first name field, last name, email, title, phone, fax, everything. All the fields are available which is related to the contact details. But now my requirement is, along with this contact details, I want to know the rating of that account. I want to know the rating of that account record. Nothing but the account rating. I want to know that account industry. I want to know the account annual revenue field. I want to know that accounts type. I want to get the account active status. So now all these fields I would like to display inside this. Nothing but what happened inside the contact record, I want to show the details of that associated account details also. But generally, so we are having that rating field, industry field, annual revenue, type, active. These are all our fields of account object. But now I want to display these account field values inside my contact record also. Okay, I want to show this information inside my contact record also here. Then at that time, how can we reference the parent object fields inside the child object here? Now let's see. So now whenever you are going to be preparing the formula fields, then at that time, not only referencing the source fields from the same object, we can able to reference the parent object fields also. So at that time, the parent object may be associated with lookup. It may be associated with master detail. It won't bother about that. Just it is expecting an association. That's it. So now at that time, how can we fetch that information? Now we will see practically over here. Now, for example, here, I have this contact object. Inside this contact object, I'm having some contact record. Like I'm having some Bertha Boxer, which is a contact record is available here. So now when coming to the contact record, we are having some set of fields like as the contact owner, name of the contact, the department, title, everything is available over here. But now this contact is associated with an account that is called as customer name is Farmers Coupa, Florida. So this is the contact, this is the account record with which it is associating right now. But now, along with these details, I want to show the associated account records details also inside this contact record itself. Then how can we implement this functionality with the help of these formula fields? Now let's see here. So now I want to show the account records, rating value, annual revenue value, and the industry value, and the active status inside this contact record. Then how can we reference? Now we will see practically here.
Firoz, it will be redundant, right? Firoz, if we show here the same fields, whatever the parent one isn't redundant, right?
So it's not redundant basically. So like sometimes if the contacts are going to be accessible by some other people, accounts are accessing by some other people. Like these people are different. Nothing but two different teams are there. Accounts records will be taken care by some other team, and that contacts will be taken care by some other team at that time. So now the people who are accessing the contact record, those people need some details about the account. At that time, instead of granting the access on this object, whatever the fields they want, only those fields we can able to display inside that contact. So for that, we are going to be using these functionalities here.
Oh, got it.
Okay. So now for that, we are going to be creating the formula fields, which is going to be displaying this account record information in the read-only format, so that just the people can able to get the information about that account record here. Now, I'm creating a field inside this, which is of type a formula. Create a field, the formula field. You are aware of the navigation, how to create that formula field. Specify the field label, the account rating. So now account rating is what? A pick list field. But we don't have any pick list type over here. Then what is the field that we need to select? This rating will be having what? Some values available. Now what we are doing here, we are going to be displaying that value. To display that value, we need a text box here. Because anyhow, it may be any type of value that will be always displaying in the read-only format only. So at that time, I need to use a text type. Select the field type as a text. Now specify the formula. Then how can we fetch the parent record details inside the child? So that, go to that insert field. I'm having this account. I'm having this account. So now inside this account, you will be having, this is the contact. This contact is having all the fields are available here. So now along with these fields, it is giving some information here. Like as account, nothing but account. So now it is giving a greater than symbol, nothing but what happened, this contact is associated with an account. If you want to see the fields of account, then click on this link. When you click on that, in that account record, whatever the fields are available, all the fields will be getting populated. Now, in that account object, we are having so many fields are available here. Which field information you want to display? So now I want to show the rating field of this account. So now let's select that field as rating. Rating field. Now it is giving that formula field API name is that is account dot rating. Nothing but whenever you are referencing the parent object fields, it is going to be referencing the parent object name dot the field name that is rating. Click on insert. So now this rating field is of type what? A pick list. How can we get the currently selected value from the pick list? By using text function. So we have to use text of account dot rating. Now let's go to the next button. In order to create this field, make it visible to all the profiles by selecting the visible checkbox and make it save. So now when you go to this contact, just refresh this contact record now. Along with this contact details, it will be displaying that account record rating also here. Now it is providing the field to you, account rating. Now this is hot. So now account record rating value also will be visible to you over here inside this contact. Suppose if you want to know whether it is correct or not. And then open your account record. Now in this account record, I'm having the rating value as hot, Farmers Club of Florida. In that account record, I'm having the value customer rating as hot. The same value will be getting visible to you inside this contact object as a value as hot. Now suppose I'm changing this value to some warm. Let's save this one. We have some validation rules are there. I'm selecting some values. I'm entering some website values. Account site, type, and the passport number, and the active status. Because on these fields we have some validation rules, so that I'm entering all these values. Now we have changed that rating value to warm. When you go to the contact, When you refresh this contact record, then it is going to be reflecting automatically over here. So now, suppose for example, I want to show that account records, the associated account records record type. So now if you want to show that information, then we can go to that, create a new field, go to the field type as formula, account record type. So what will be the record type of this account here? So now I am selecting as the text field, go to the next. I want to display the record type of that account record. Go to that insert field, select that contact. Now this contact is associated with the account here. This account will be having a field called as record type ID. Okay, it will be having that record type ID will be available to you. So now this is a record type ID. If I'm selecting this field, what happened? Just the ID will be getting visible to you. But I don't want to visible the record type ID. I want to know the record type name. So at that time, this account object is associated with an object called as account record type. Nothing but I'm going to be traversing from one object to another object here. Now select that account record type. In that account record type, you will be having a field called as name. Nothing but account dot record type dot name. Nothing but I'm going to be stepping up. Nothing but I'm going to be traversing from my child object to the parent objects, parent and grandparent. Like that, we can able to traverse. So now we can able to fetch. Nothing but from contact to account I'm traversing right now here. From account to record type I'm traversing here, and then I'm fetching that record type information, so that we can able to fetch this information directly here. Now let's check the syntax. There is no errors available inside the syntax now. Go to the next button. Make it visible to all the profiles by selecting the visible checkbox. Make it save. Let's go to that contact object. Just refresh this graphical user interface. So now you will be getting that account record type that is empty. Why? Because this account record is not associated with any of the record type over here. Now, for example, let's open any of our contact record which we have created. So now we are opening that contact record called as Srinivas Vemuri. This Srinivas Vemuri is not associated with an account record. So now I must be making associated with an account called as Delphi Chemicals. Delphi Chemicals is an account record to which I would like to make it associated. Now, so now here Delphi Chemicals is an account record which is associated with the record type. This is associated with the record type called as the new customer record type. Okay, this is associated with the new customer record type. If it is not visible, then we can able to place on that layout as well here. So now we can able to go to that layout. We can able to place that account record type also. Now you will be getting that what will be the record type of this record. Now, so now here I'm going to be changing this record type to the new record type right now. So now these are expecting some values because we haven't entered any values over here. Active status value, I'm entering some value over here. The PAN number and the passport number, ownership value, and the website value. Now, so now this Delphi Chemicals is an account which is associated with a record type called as new customer record type. So now for this particular account, we are having some contact is available. This contact is nothing but the Tom James. So now this Tom James is having the contact details, and in this contact details, it is going to be displaying that account record rating as hot. It is displaying that account records record type as new customer type. So nothing but what happened, not only fetching the data from the parent, we can able to fetch the data from the grandparent also like that. Nothing but we are traversing from contact to account and account to record type also. Because record type is the parent and the account is the child. So now, how do you know which one is the parent, which one is the child? So now when coming to the record types, how your data model is available here. So this is the record types data model is available to you over here. So this is the record types data model is available. So now you will be having set of objects are there, like as account object, campaign object, case object, contact, contract, lead, opportunity, solution, like that your custom objects are also, everything is available. But all these objects are associated with an object called as a record type. And every record type is associated with a business process. Already you are aware of what exactly the business process and what are the business processes available in Salesforce. So now one business process can be associated with the multiple record types. That's what here business process to record type one to many association is there. Record type to the other object field, other objects we are having that one to many. Nothing but record type is a common object which is referencing in each and every standard and the custom objects available in Salesforce. So now here, when coming to the record type, all the record types which you have created in that any of the object, it may be standard or it may be the custom, all those record types will be getting resides inside this record type object. You are aware of how to fetch those information. Already we have discussed practically through that query also we can able to fetch those data. Like as we can fetch the record type ID, we can fetch the name of the record type, we can fetch the object to which this record type is associated with is nothing but with the field, the S object type. So now by using those fields information, we can able to fetch. Now, so now in this kind of scenario here, now in my case, we are going to be referencing from parent, child to parent and parent to grandparent like that. Like that, then how many references I can able to traverse when coming to the Salesforce, whenever you are going to be traversing from child to parent, we are having some limitation. We can have maximum of 10 parent object references. In formula fields. Nothing but this is the child object. From the child to we can able to go to that parent one. So now I am going to that parent two. Nothing but this is the grandparent. And I am going to that grandparent. Like that here we can able to traverse up to 10 references. Not more than that. Whenever you are trying to be referencing the 11th reference, automatically Salesforce will give the error message that you are already crossing the 10 object references so that you cannot able to go on top again. So at that time, what we can do here? So how can we go beyond those things? But my requirement is the 11th object is the 11th parent is there. Then how can we reference? So now for that, whenever if you're crossing the 10 references, then we can able to contact the Salesforce and we can ask them to extend the number of object references so that they will be extending that number of references to from 10 to 20. So now depends upon your need, we can keep on referencing that parent object traversing options also with the help of by contacting Salesforce. By default, we are having 10 and then remaining, if you want to extend that limitation, then we can able to contact the Salesforce in order to extend that. Okay. So now this is the way we can able to fetch the information from parent to child. It may be from the parent, it may be from the grandparent also. Okay. Now, so now we will see the security concepts here. What exactly the security features? What are the various topics we are going to discuss as part of the security? Now we'll see practically one by one. Security topics are very, very important. And the practice is also very, very important every day. whatever the topics we are discussing every day, those topics we have to do the practice. If you are facing any difficulty, then let me know so that we can sort it out. Now, during this security, we are going to be discussing about few topics here. We are going to discuss about the security overview, and then we are going to discuss about the user management. In that user management, we are going to be discussing about adding new users to the organization. How can we add few new users to the organization? By granting some permissions. In future, if this users has been left from the company, if the users has been left from the organization or from the team, then at that time, how can we prevent these users from logging into our application? How can we prevent these users from accessing our application? So because what happened is, when coming to the entry point of view also, they will raise a question, how can we delete a user record? But in Salesforce, we don't have any feature in Salesforce to remove a user record. Once a user record has been created, that will be fixed. We cannot delete the user record from Salesforce. There is no such options in Salesforce as of now. Now, in the entry point of view, they will raise the question indirectly. How many ways are there to delete the user record? Generally, the people thought of might be there might be some new features are there in Salesforce to remove the user record. But now we don't have any feature in Salesforce to remove a user record. Whatever the user records you have created, those user records we cannot remove from Salesforce. The other object records, like as account records, you can remove, contact records, you can remove, opportunity records, you can remove, your custom object records, you can remove. The object itself we can remove from the Salesforce, but the user record we cannot able to remove. There is no option in Salesforce. And then at that time, if these users are left from the company, then how can we prevent the user to log in into our application to access our application? So for that, here we are having that deactivating features. Deactivating user accounts or the user records. How can we deactivate the user account? And the third one, we are having one more option here. Freezing that user. Freezing the user record or the user accounts. How can we freeze the user record? And how can we unfreeze? Okay. Freezing the user and unfreezing the user record here. So what is the difference between deactivating and the freezing? We'll see practically over there. Now, after that, we are going to be discussing about the concept of role hierarchy. So what exactly the role hierarchy? How can we assign the roles to the users? So what is the benefit of defining the roles? And what the role will provide the flexibilities to you. Based on the user role, we can able to make some records to be get visible. Then how can we grant the visibility on the records? By assigning some roles to these users. We'll see practically here. And after that, we are going to discuss about a concept called as OWD, organization-wide defaults. What exactly the organization-wide defaults? What is the use of organization-wide defaults? What are the various organization-wide defaults options are available? We'll see practically. OWD is a definite question in every interview. And then after that, we are discussing about a concept called as sharing settings. In this sharing settings, we are having two options again here. One is manual sharing. How can we make the records to be get visible to the other users? Nothing but manually I want to share. I want to make it visible to the other users here. One is the manual sharing. And the second one is the automated sharing. This automated sharing is also called as sharing rules. When coming to the manual sharing, how can we share the record to a single user here? Share the record to single user. And the second option, how can we share the record to group of users? So at that time, we are going to be discussing a concept called as public groups. You're discussing about a feature called as public groups. What exactly a public group? How can we create a public group? How can we add the members to the public group? And how can we make the records to be get visible to the whole group of users? And then after that, we are going to be sharing the record to a queue. Share the record to a queue. So what exactly a queue? What is the use of queue? We'll see practically over here. There you will be having the concept of difference between public group and a queue. Now we'll see practically over there. And when coming to the automated sharing here. In this automated sharing, again we are having the two features again. One is share the records based on owner, and the share the records based on criteria. So now these are the two sharing settings that we have, like as a manual sharing and the automated sharing. How can we share the record manually, and how can we share the record by using some automated rules called as sharing rules? In that sharing rules, again, we are having the two flavors. One is sharing the records based on owner. Second one is sharing the records based on criteria. And then after that, we are going to be discussing about a feature called as queues. And then after that queues, we are going to be discussing about a feature called as assignment rules. How can we assign the record to a queue? So now by using the assignment rules, we can able to assign the records to that queue automatically here by using some criteria. We can able to assign to that queue. And then we are discussing about a concept called as profiles. And after the profiles, we are discussing about a feature called as permission sets. There you will be having a question called as difference between a role and a profile. This is a common question in every interview. And then sometimes they will raise a question difference between role, profile, and permission set. Okay, these are the common questions are there. And then after that, we are going to be discussing about a feature called as grant access using hierarchies. Grant access using hierarchies. And then we are having one more feature, that is login IP ranges. How can we restrict our Salesforce application that can be accessible only within the trusted network IP addresses? Like as when you go to your organization, like as for example, we are having the bank application. Bank application can be accessible only within the bank only here. Even though I'm a bank employee, if I'm not working, if I'm not feeling well today, I cannot able to take the work from home option today. Because here the bank application cannot be accessible from the outside. We have to access that application from within the bank branch only. From the outside, we cannot able to access because that application has been restricted that the bank application can be accessible within the bank network only here because it has been restricted with the help of IP ranges. Then how can we restrict my Salesforce application also to be get accessible within the specified network IP ranges? That flexibility will be available. And then one more thing, whenever you are accessing the bank application here, for example, I'm a bank manager. So now at that time, so much work is in pending because I'm in some vacation since the last week. So that so much work is in pending so that I need to go to the bank a bit early and I would like to close all the things here. So now, but whenever, even though you are a bank manager, if you go a bit early, nothing but bank will be opened by some 10 o'clock in the morning. If you are going to 8 o'clock, then bank application cannot be accessible to you. Nothing but bank application will be accessible only from the 10 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock only. So then how can we restrict my application to be accessible within the specified time period only? If there is any holidays are there, during that holidays, my application cannot be accessible. Now, so for that here, how can we restrict this application? For that, we are using a feature called as login hours. How can we configure the login hours here? Login hours configuration. And then after that, I would like to have some audit setup trials. Audit setup trials. So now what are the audit setup trials and how can we track how many people has accessed this application from as of now, from which system they have access, when they have logged in, and which type of application they have used. Everything we can able to track with the help of the audit setup trials. So now these are the various features that we are going to be discussing as part of security. So now this is the agenda which we are going to be discussing during this security concepts here, so that you can able to aware of what features are available in Salesforce, the security features, then how can we use these features, what is the hierarchy of these features. Now, so now we'll see each and every feature one by one. First, we'll see what exactly the security features and what is the need of security, because Salesforce itself is a secured product. Salesforce itself is a secured application. Then what is the need of maintaining the security here? Why we have to configure the security features again in Salesforce? What is the need? Anyone?
This is for the application. Like, for example, like I have two users.
Okay.
One user want to access only certain application within the Salesforce, and some users want to within, I mean, like different applications. Then you need a security, right?
Okay.
And
suppose, for example, I am also one user, you are also one user. Now we are both are working in the same organization. So now you are also accessing the same Salesforce application. I'm also accessing the same application. But you have created some records. I have created my own records. At that time, what happened? Your record cannot be accessible to myself, and my records cannot be visible to you. Nothing but what happened in a single organization. If you're having the multiple users, then how can we make the visibility of the records between those users? So now for that, here we are going to be going for the security features. Now let's see. For example, assume that I'm creating a Salesforce account. Okay, I'm creating a Salesforce account. So now when coming to the Salesforce account, as soon as whenever you are creating a new Salesforce account, Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of memory inside that associated server. So assume that while creating my account, I have entered my user details. I have entered my username, nothing but the first name. Inside the registration form, I have entered my last name. I have entered my email ID in order to create that record, in order to create that Salesforce account. And then I have entered my country name to which I am associated, and the zip code, and the username, and everything. All these details I have entered while creating my Salesforce account. So now, for example, here, I'm creating a Salesforce account. In order to create the Salesforce account, we are going to be using a website called as developer.salesforce.com/signup. So now this is the URL that we are using in order to create a new free Salesforce account. So now, which is a lifetime edition, nothing but this edition will not be get expired. Even though if it is a free developer edition available in Salesforce, this will not be get expired after 45 days or after 90 days. This is a lifelong version. It's a permanent version to you. So that here we can able to access this application lifelong also till whatever the time that you want. So now this is a simple graphical user interface they have offered to you, where in order to create your new Salesforce account. So now we have to enter your first name, last name, email ID, your role, your company name, your country, which is playing a very major role, and then the postal code and the username which you want to use to log in into your account again. After that, when you click on sign me up, it is going to be creating a new account with these details. It is sending that account activation link to the email ID which you have entered over here. So now by using that email ID, we can able to activate that account just by click on that link, account activation link forwarded to your email ID. and we can able to enter the password and the confirm password on that link, and we can able to activate your account, and we can able to log in into your account directly from the next time. So now whenever I'm creating this Salesforce account, if I'm giving that country as India, then India will be associated with which region? Asia Pacific region. Already you are aware of that. Okay, already you are aware of that. When coming to the Salesforce, Salesforce is going to be maintaining a multiple servers inside that associated regions. In that associated region, Salesforce is going to be maintaining multiple servers. So now, as of now, when coming to the Salesforce in the Asia Pacific region, we are having that AP0 to AP4 servers are there. AP0 to AP4. Nothing but these are the 4 servers or 5 servers are available inside this Asia Pacific region. In each and every server, nothing but AP0, AP1, AP2, AP3, AP4. These are the 5 servers are available. So now in each and every server, you are having so much huge spaces available here. So now in that servers, it will be identify. So whatever the required amount of memory for this particular new user, it will be identifying in which server this required amount of memory is available. So now, for example, to allocate or to create a new Salesforce account, it requires some 50 MB of memory or some 200 MB of memory. Then it will be identifying in which server we have the required amount of memory. If the memory has been available in any of the server, it is going to be allocating that memory inside that server to you. For example, here I'm having that AP2 server. In that AP2 server, it is identified some required amount of memory is available. So now, as soon as whenever you are creating an account, Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of memory inside that associated server to you. So now, for example, here in the AP2, it has allocated some amount of memory for me here. So now this is the amount of memory it has been allocated. Assume that this is the amount of memory it has allocated. Why? Because this here, when coming to the Salesforce, already we have discussed, Salesforce is maintaining the multi-tenant architecture. Multi-tenant architecture means what? In a single server, it is going to be allocating the memory space for the multiple customers. Now, who are utilizing these Salesforce services on rental basis? Now, in each server, you will be having huge memory spaces there. In that memory space, it is allocating some amount of memory sphere for each and every customer who is creating a new Salesforce account. Now, this is a Salesforce account that we have created. Now, for this Salesforce account, it is going to be allocating some amount of memory inside that AP2 server. Why it is allocating in the AP2 server? Already you are aware of that we are having the 3 regions are there for the Salesforce. One is the North America region. Second one is the Europe region. Third one is the Asia Pacific region. Then why it is allocating the memory inside the Asia Pacific region servers? Because whenever I'm creating my Salesforce account, in that country field, I have entered that country name as India. India will be comes under Asia Pacific region, so that in the Asia Pacific regions, in the available servers, it is going to be allocating some memory space for me. Now, so now in that AP2 server, it has identified, because in the Asia Pacific region, we are having the 5 servers are there, like as AP0, AP1, AP2, AP3, AP4. Already you are aware of how can we cross-check what are the various instances available in each and every region by using trust.salesforce.com website. Now, so now here, it is going to be identifying the required amount of memory inside the AP2 server. Because if the AP4 server is also full, it is going to be adding one more server over here. Like previously we have discussed here. During our initial concept, you have discussed about multi-tenant architecture. So in that multi-tenant architecture, we have discussed that Salesforce is going to be allocating the memory space for each and every customer inside the same server. Now this server may be the Asia Pacific region server, it may be North America region or the EU region. So now here, whenever a new customer is going to be creating or adding to the Salesforce, then they are going to be allocating some amount of memory here. Now this is the amount of memory it will be allocating for each customer. For the second customer, nothing but one more people has created a Salesforce account. For this one, it is allocating some amount of memory. Another customer has using the Salesforce services, so that for some more memory for that customer. Nothing but for each and every tenant, for each and every customer, it is going to be allocating some amount of memory inside that. So now in this memory only, okay, in this memory only, it is going to be the customers has to store their applications. They have to install their applications. They have to store their data, the records, everything they can able to place inside that. Like as in a single apartment, okay, in a single apartment, we are having some various flats are available here. So nothing but what happened, apartment is belongs to a builder or an organization. So now this apartment is a property belongs to a builder or an organization. So now whatever the space is there inside the apartment, they are going to be dividing that whole space into the various small portions. Those are called as the flats. Now each and every flat will be having some space. In that space, that particular tenant has to place their items, their household items they can able to place inside that. Now one flat cannot be accessible by the another person. Nothing but one tenant can able to access only one flat. Now one flat cannot be accessible by the other people available inside that apartment here. There is some restriction, there is some security is available because the builder has placed some doors and locks are there on that every flat, so that the every tenant can able to make a lock on that in order to protect their items, in order to protect their properties. Like the same way here also, when coming to this apartment, let's treat this apartment space like as your Salesforce server. Now whatever the flat is available, treat like as that is nothing but for one customer, nothing but the tenant is nothing but one customer. Now in that flat we are having some space, nothing but that space is nothing but the memory space giving by the Salesforce to you. Now in that space the person is placing their household item. Those household items are nothing but our applications, our data, our records, our files, everything we are placing inside that memory space given by the Salesforce to you. So now this whole apartment is belongs to nothing but a server. Now this is belongs to a builder, nothing but this is nothing but belongs to a Salesforce organization. So nothing but that builder or the owner is nothing but the Salesforce.com organization. So now in this case, when coming to the Salesforce, for each and every customer, they are going to be allocating some space inside that available server. So now here also, whenever you are creating a new Salesforce account, Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of memory space here. Now this is nothing but your Salesforce account. Okay, here the memory space has been allocated to you. So now this is Salesforce account is also called as a Salesforce organization. Okay, this is also called as a Salesforce organization. It is also called as a Salesforce organization. So now this Salesforce organization will be identified by using a unique identification number. Why? Because is here, whenever if one more customer has created a Salesforce account, he is also from India. For that customer, it is going to be allocating the memory inside the same server itself. Another customer has created one more Salesforce account. For this customer also, it will be allocating the memory inside the same server. Like that, for the multiple customers, it is going to be allocating the memory space in the same server here. So now at that time, how it can able to identify each and every customer's memory space? For that here, each and every account, each and every memory space will be treated as an organization. This is also a Salesforce organization. And this is also called as a Salesforce organization, which is belongs to a separate person. And then this is also a separate organization allocated for a separate account. So now here, for each and every customer, Salesforce is allocating a different set of memory. Now for customer 1, assume that this is a customer 1. He has created one Salesforce account. For that, this customer 1, it has allocated some amount of memory here. Now customer 2, nothing but one more person has started utilizing the Salesforce services. For this one, it is allocating some amount of memory. Customer 3, one more person has started utilizing the Salesforce services. For that, it is using customer 3. It will be having a different memory location. Customer 4, a different set of memory location will be getting assigned. So now here, these are the various organizations are available. Nothing but what happened inside a single instance, inside a single Salesforce instance, we are having the multiple organizations are available here. So now for each and every organization.
Question, Firoz.
Yeah.
Sorry to disturb. Yeah. The database will be in each and every in every instance, for example, account in C1, C2, C3, C4, or it is in a common place.
Yeah, I'm coming to that point.
Account object.
Yeah, I'm coming to that point here. Okay. Now, give me 1 minute. I will be coming to that point here. Now, in order to identify each and every organization, Salesforce is going to be allocating one unique identification number. Okay, it is allocating one unique identification number that is called as organization ID. This is called as the organization ID, or it is also called as Salesforce.com organization ID. So now this is also one of the unique identification number allocated by Salesforce for each and every organization. So now in this case here, So now what is the ID has been allocated by the Salesforce people for my organization. Because as of now, everybody will be having their own Salesforce accounts. Nothing but whenever you are creating a Salesforce account, then Salesforce is allocating some amount of space inside that associated regions available server. So now for each and every organization, Salesforce is allocating one unique identification number. Then how do you know what is a unique identification number allocated by the Salesforce to us? So where exactly we can find out this unique identification number? When you go to your Salesforce instance, you will be having that setup menu. Go to that setup menu. In the left panel, you will be having that administer menu. In that administer menu, you will be having that option called as company profiles. Inside that company profiles, you will be having an option called as company information link. In that company information link, you will be having a last field called as salesforce.com organization ID. Nothing but this is a unique identification number Salesforce is going to be allocating for each and every organization. Now for my organization, Salesforce has allocated this unique identification number. For your organization, Salesforce will be allocating some different unique identification number here. Like as for each and every Salesforce organization, it is going to be allocating one unique identification number automatically here. So now for my organization, it is allocating one unique identification number. So this is the identification number allocated by the Salesforce for my organization. Now, so what is the need of allocating a new identification number for every organization here? Now let's see. For example, so now when coming to the Salesforce here, now inside the single server, we are having that so many organizations are available. Organization means one of the account, nothing but this is one Salesforce account, this is another Salesforce account, this is another Salesforce account, this is another Salesforce account. So now for each and every server, it is going to be allocating the memory space for the multiple customers inside that. Now, at that time, when coming to the organization 1C1, nothing but the customer C1, he will be creating some records. Customer C2, he will be creating some records. Customer C3, he will be creating some records. Customer C4, he will be creating some records. Then where these records will get stored? So where is the database? What is the database for the Salesforce organization? As everybody is aware of that, Salesforce is maintaining their own internal database, their own customized database called as database.com. So now Salesforce is maintaining their own database here. Already you are aware of that. Salesforce is maintaining their own database. That is nothing but the database.com. So now this is the database.com. It is the customized database of Salesforce. Okay, it is the customized database of Salesforce. So now whenever you are creating a new Salesforce account, by default, Salesforce is providing the Salesforce CRM application access to you on free of cost. Nothing but by default, Salesforce is providing, they're going to be exposing some ready-made applications to you on free of cost. So now by creating your Salesforce account, we can able to access that Salesforce application ready-madely without paying any amount to the Salesforce. We can able to access that application directly, and we can able to automate your business processes also by using that Salesforce CRM application. In that Salesforce CRM application, what happened? We are having so many functionalities are available. In order to automate my marketing process, we are having so many features are there. In order to automate my sales process, my service process, so many ready-made features are available inside that application. So now, as part of that Salesforce CRM application, it is offering some set of ready-made tables also to you, where we can store our campaign information, our leads information, our accounts information, our contacts information, opportunities information, complaints information, everything. Nothing but as whenever you are developing that application, now for that to store that data inside by using that application, we need some database. Nothing but we need some tables. Now where these tables will be available here? So now for each and every organization, Salesforce is maintaining a separate set of tables, or Salesforce will be maintaining the common set of tables. Nothing but only one set of tables for each and every instance. Nothing but for this all the organization, they are maintaining a common table, or they would like to maintain a separate account table and contact table and opportunity table for the each and every organization. Now, when coming to the Salesforce, Salesforce is maintaining only one set of tables. Okay, only one set of tables. Nothing but only one account object is there. Only one account table, one contact table, one opportunity table, one case table, one lead table is available, which will be common to all the organizations available inside that server. So now by using this server instance, okay, by using this server instance, we can able to connect to the database and we can able to store some records inside that. And whenever if we want to fetch the data, then we can able to make a query and we can fetch the information also by from this database also. That flexibility will be there. So now in this kind of scenario here, Salesforce is not maintaining a separate account table for the organization C1. It is not maintaining a separate table for C2. It is not maintaining a separate account table for the C3. Salesforce is maintaining a common tables. Nothing but only one set of tables Salesforce will maintain inside the database.com, where it will be storing the records of all the organizations. Whenever the C1 person has nothing but customer 1 has created an account record, that is also storing inside the same table. When the customer 2 create the same record, it is also storing inside the same table. When the customer 3 creates one more record, it is also storing inside the same table. Then how the Salesforce is maintaining the security here? Because here Salesforce is not maintaining a separate set of tables. If the Salesforce is maintaining a separate set of tables for each and every organization separately, then no need to maintain any security concepts here. But Salesforce is maintaining only one set of tables, which will be common to all the organizations, so that my records are also there in the same table, and the Prem's record is also there in the same table. Sridhar's record is also in the same table. Ram's record is also there in the same table. Then how can we provide the security for these records here? How Salesforce is maintaining the security for the records which are available inside the same table, which are belongs to the different organizations or the different users. So for that, security features are came into the picture. So now for that,
sorry, one more question, Firoz.
Yeah.
If it is having a single table, but different organizations will have a different custom fields, right? For account, I have 10 custom fields.
Yes. Yeah.
Somebody will have 20 custom.
Yeah, I'm coming to that point here. So now whenever you are going to be having that standard objects or the custom object, whatever the standard objects and standard fields will be giving by the Salesforce, these will be common to each and every organization. And whatever the custom fields that you have created, custom objects that you have created, those are specific to the organization itself. Internally, Salesforce is going to be maintaining this object has been associated with this particular organization, so that here only that organization people can able to access these fields. So now for each and every object, Salesforce is maintaining the security features to you. Now, whatever the standard objects and standard fields that we have, these are common to each and every organization. And apart from that, as an organization, I need some more columns are required inside the account table, so that I have created my fields. And then some other people need some more fields, so that they have created their own field. So at that time, whatever the custom fields they have created, whatever the custom objects they have created, nothing but custom tables they have created, that will be specific to that organization only. But the standard features are common to each and every organization. So now, in this kind of scenario, how can we maintain the security here? So now for that, Salesforce has introduced so many security features to you, which we can able to configure in order to maintain the visibility of the records between the users. Now, so now for example here, assume that I'm having that account table. Assume that I'm having that account table here. So this is my account table that I'm having right now. This is the account table that I'm having right now. So now my table name is account table. This is the standard table given by Salesforce. So now inside this table, you will be having so many fields are there, nothing but so many columns are there, like as the ID column and the name column, and you will be having the rating column and the industry column. Like that, so many columns are available inside this. I'm having some set of columns are there inside my table. So now this is the ID column. This is the name column, name of the account record. This is the rating of the account record. And this is the industry. Like that, so many fields, so many columns are available inside my table here. Now, For example here, when coming to the account table, this is a common. Each and every organization member can able to create some records inside my table. Every organization member, nothing but each and every person can able to create the records inside that account table. Each and every organization people, whenever they are creating the account record, the records will be storing inside the same account table only here. Then how we are going to be differentiating these records information? So now why Salesforce is introducing the security features separately here? Now we'll see practically. For example here, when coming to the customer one, he has created one account record. Now for that account record, he has given some details here. Like as the account record name is some Ramesh Kumar. This is account record he has created. He has given the rating as some heart rating. Industry is some finance. Nothing but this account person, nothing but this customer is associated with that finance industry here. And along with that remaining details he has entered over here. Like as annual revenue, type of the account, his phone number, his fax number, his billing address, shipping address, everything he has entered. All the details are available. Once the account record has been getting created, then Salesforce is going to be allocating one unique identification number. That is already you are aware of. Salesforce is allocating one 18 characters unique identification number, which is starting from 001. So now, for this account record, assume that it has allocated the account record ID that is 001-2004. Assume that this is the ID has been allocated here. Now, when coming to that, customer 2, okay, nothing but C2, customer 2, they have created one more account record here. Customer 2 has created one account record. Now for this customer 2, they have given the name as some Wipro Incorporation. So now the rating is some warm. The industry is some technology. This is belongs to the industry technology because they're offering some technical and the software services to their organization, to their customers. Now for this account record, Salesforce has allocated one unique identification number, which is starting with 001. Assume that this is some 2400. And then customer 3, nothing but the organization 3 people has created some account record inside this. So now for this customer, they have created the account record with the details. Some Suresh Verma. This is the account record, customer record they have created here. So now they have given the rating as some heart. The industry is some banking. This customer is associated with the banking. Upon creating this record, Salesforce is allocating one unique identification number starting with 001. For this one, 4560 will be the ID Salesforce has allocated here. So now how do we know which record is associated with which organization? So now already we have discussed that whenever you are going to be making a request to get some to the Salesforce server to get some records information, at that time Salesforce is sending so many informations to you. What kind of information Salesforce will send from your browser? Whenever you are going to be click on a button control, or when you click on save button, Salesforce is going to be sending that the farm data, your farm data, nothing but whatever the data that you have entered inside that farm to be get inserted, and you are along with your requested URL, nothing but for which application that we are expecting to send that request, and then your header information, nothing but if the entire data which you have entered inside the farm fields, if the whole data cannot be fitting into that one data packet, then it will be dividing into the various data packets, so that those data packets, the header information also will be getting notified inside that request. And then it is sending that browser information, which browser you are using, and then it is sending your operating system information, which operating system you are using, which version of operating system you are using right now. It is sending your session ID. Whatever the session ID has been generated by that Salesforce application, upon logging into your Salesforce application, that session ID also it will be forwarding to you. And then along with that, it is going to be sending your organization ID also. Whatever the organization that you are associated with, because each and every Salesforce account will be nothing but a Salesforce organization. Now each and every Salesforce organization will be having some unique identification number, which is starting with 00D. So now here Salesforce is allocating one unique identification number for each and every organization with the name called as organization ID, this organization ID is also will be forwarding along with your request. So nothing but what happened, in order to indicate this request has been come from this particular Salesforce organization. So now here, whenever you are trying to be inserting a new record, then along with your record details, whatever you have entered, it is going to be sending your organization ID also. Nothing but inside this table, Salesforce is going to be maintaining a column called as organization ID. So now inside that, you will be having a column called as salesforce.com organization ID. So now this is that organization ID here. So now inside this organization ID column, it is going to be storing that organization ID of your Salesforce account. Now for this each and every Salesforce account, you will be having that organization ID, which is starting with a 00D. So now assume that for this organization C1, we will be having some IDs available here, 00D, some 2800. Assume that. So now here I'm removing this part for our simply identification. So now for this C2 organization, assume that it has allocated the ID 00D and 2400. For this organization C3, it is allocating the ID 00D 2345. For this organization C4, assume that it is allocating the ID 00D 4567. So now whenever the person customer one, nothing but from the organization C1, whenever these people are creating a record, along with the record details, it is storing that organization ID also here. Now this record has been created by the customer one from the organization C1. So now it is going to storing that organization ID also along with that 00D 2800. Now the second record has been created by the organization C2, so that it is going to be storing that ID of that organization 00D 2400. The third record has been created by the organization C3, so for that it is storing that 00D 2345. Nothing but what happened, along with your request details, it is forwarding the organization ID which you are currently associated with. So now it is storing that organization ID also inside your table. Nothing but in the table, you will be having a field called as nothing but a column called as organization ID, which is a hidden column which cannot be visible by default to you. So now in this kind of scenario here, now this is my organization. Like as assume that this is my TCS company here. Now this organization C1 is associated to the TCS company. In the TCS company, so many employees are available here. So now these employees are accessing that. Nothing but these all are employees means what? These are the users of this organization. These are the members of this organization here. Now inside a single organization, if you're having the multiple users are there. Now for example here, I'm having the user 1. I'm having the user 2. I'm having the user 3. Now 3 users are available inside my organization again. So now I'm having the user 1. I'm having the user 1. And then I'm having the user 2. And I'm having the user 3. 3 users are there inside this organization here. So now these users are going to be creating some records inside this. This is the user 1 and the user 2 and the user 3. These are the 3 users are there inside a single organization here. So at that time, if the user 1 has created the record, then those records should not be visible to the user 2 and the user 3. Nothing but each and every organization wide, we are going to be differentiating by adding that organization ID inside that table here. If this organization is having multiple users are there, then how can we restrict the visibility of the records between those users? So now at that time, whenever you are going to be creating some new user inside that Salesforce, then automatically for each and every user, Salesforce is going to be allocating one user ID. For each and every user, it is going to be allocating one unique identification number that is called as user ID, which is always starting from 005. So now the user IDs are starting with a 005. So nothing but what happened inside an organization, if you're having multiple users are there, and in this case of scenario, along with your organization ID, it is going to be sending your user ID also. Now, what is the ID of your organization here? What is the ID of your user record, which is starting from 005? Nothing but what happened whenever you are going to be making a request to the Salesforce server to perform some operation, to create some record, to modify some record, to delete some record, or to access some specific feature at that time, Salesforce is going to be sending the whole details as a request here. Nothing but this whole data will be forwarding as a request to that Salesforce server. Now Salesforce server is receiving all these details. It is going to be processing your request. At that time, it is identifying the organization ID. Now when coming to this organization ID is exist or not currently, it will verify that. And after that, it is going to be verifying in that organization with this ID, do we have any user is available or not. If the user is there, then if this user is having the permission to perform this operation or not, it will verify. If the user is having the rights to perform that operation, it will be performing that operation, it will be sending the response back to that user. So now where this all these permissions we can specify. In order to specify the permissions to a user, we are going to be using a component called as profile. When coming to the profile, profile is nothing but a component. Profile is nothing but a mediator between the users and the Salesforce organization, nothing but the Salesforce application. Whenever the user is trying to be keep on sending a request, now in between that user and the Salesforce application, there is a mediator. There is a wall in between that is nothing but a profile. Each and every user request has to pass through the profile only here. Now, where exactly the profile will be available? Profile will be available inside that platform. Profile is available inside that platform. Inside the platform, you will be having the profile. Each and every user request has to be passed through the platform, because platform is the place where exactly the whole Salesforce application and the database has been resides. So now in this kind of scenario here, whenever you are going to be making a request to insert a record, to modify the record, to retrieve the record, each and every request has to be passed through the platform. Now every request has to be get authorized by the first.com platform. Every request has to be authorized by the first.com platform with the help of your session ID. And along with that, once that session ID has been getting verified, if the user session is in active status, then it will be verifying whether this user organization ID is exist or not inside my platform. If the organization ID is available, then it will be allowing that user request to enter into the first.com platform. Once the request has been entered into the first.com platform, now it is going to be redirecting this request to that profile. Now for this user, what is the ID? Now for this ID, for this user ID, what is the profile is associated? Nothing but where we have specified all the permissions for these users. Now it will be looking into the profile, and in that profile it will verify what are the permissions this user is having here. Now based on that permissions, it will be allowing this user to perform that operation inside your application. So now for that here, each and every request is going, your user request will be authorized by the first.com platform, and inside the first.com platform, it is going to be referencing that profile to verify whether this user is having the permission, the user is having the rights to perform this operation or not. Suppose, for example, here, whenever I'm trying to be entering into the bank organization, because I'm also one of the customer of that bank, I'm also having the account, I'm utilizing my salary account in order to perform my business salary transaction, my savings and the transactions. But whenever I'm visiting the bank, there is a locker room is available. Whenever I'm trying to be entering into the locker room, the people are not allowing me. Why? Because I'm not having a locker facility. Nothing but I'm not having the rights. Even though I'm a customer of banking organization, but I'm not having the rights to enter into that locker room because I don't have any locker facility. But other people, some more people are having the rights, because some more people are entering into the locker room because they're having that lockers are available. So nothing but what happened before they are going to be, before we are trying to be utilizing the services, first of all, they will verify whether we are having that rights or not, because we don't have that permissions. So now, in order to give all the permissions to the users, we are using a component called as a profile. Profile will be sitting in between the users and the Salesforce application. In one sentence, we can say profile is going to be deciding what operations the user can perform inside the Salesforce application. Now, what operation the user can perform, what application the user can able to access, what object the user can able to access, what record types they can able to access, what object level permission the user can have, and what session timeout permission they can have, what password policies the user can have, what Apex pages classes will be visible to the user, what Visualforce pages to be visible to the user, and everything we can able to configure inside that profile itself. During what time the user can able to access my application, from which login IP ranges the user can access my application, everything we can able to configure inside that. So now for that here, when coming to the Salesforce, it is going to be looking into that profile here. Based on that profile, it is going to be logging into that entry here. So now whenever you are going to be creating the user, for each and every user, Salesforce is going to be allocating one unique identification number here. For assume that, for example, when coming to my users, it has allocated some ID. Assume that for this particular user, user 1, it has allocated that ID here, like as some 001. For example, here I'm making a note of it here. For the user 1, it has allocated the ID some 005 100. For user 2, it has allocated the ID 005 2345 234. For the user 3, it has allocated the ID some 005 678. Assume that. So now in this kind of scenario, whenever the user 1 has created the record, along with the recorded details, it is going to be storing that associated user ID also inside that. In that table, Salesforce is maintaining a column called as user ID. Nothing but which user has created the record, nothing but who is the owner for this record here. Because as a owner will be having the full rights on always on the record, so that here who is the owner for this record here. For that, it is going to be maintaining the ID of that user also. It is maintaining that 005 some 100. Nothing but what happened along with that each and every record, Salesforce is going to be logging that organization ID as well as user ID also inside that. Why? Because Salesforce is maintaining only one table which is common to all the organizations. Nothing but you may be created the record multiple users also. Nothing but even though the Ram created some records and the Sridhar created some records and the Prem created some records and myself also have created some records. All the records are storing inside the same account table itself. Even though you are having those different organization, even though each and every person is belongs to different organization, Salesforce is maintaining only one set of tables here, not the multiple set of tables. In that table only all our records will be getting created. Then in order to provide the security for each and every record, along with that record information, it is going to be storing that your organization ID as well as your user ID also inside that. Because inside a single organization, you may be having the multiple users are also there. In order to differentiate, in order to provide the accessibility of the records between the users, it is going to be maintaining that user ID column also inside that. So now here, because of this feature, we are going to be making that visibility. Now come to the next scenario here. For example, now user 1, user 2, user 3. 3 users are there inside the organization, some C1. So now in this case, user 1 has created a record. That is nothing but the Ramesh Kumar record he has created right now here. This is the record he has created. Now, only the owner will be having the access on the record by default. Only the owner will be having the access on the record by default. But when coming to the owner, nothing but I am the owner, user 1. Now, because of some emergency, I'm going for the vacation. But there is some record is there, nothing but some Ramesh Kumar. This is nothing but the lead record, which we need to convert as soon as possible because the person is ready to buy our product here. Then I'm going for the vacation because of some personal emergency here. Then what we can do? What needs to be done here? At that time, what needs to be done is I want to delegate this responsibility of converting this lead as a customer to one of my colleague, that is user 2. Then how can we make this record to be get visible to the user 2 here? I don't want to completely transfer my ownership to that user 2. Just I'm giving the responsibility, nothing but here. Now, whenever I'm in the vacation, now please contact this person. Now the person is ready to buy the product. I have contacted the person multiple times since almost 1 week. I'm keep on in follow up with them. Now this person is ready to buy right now. That please go contact this person and then sell out the product and generate the revenue. So now for that here, what happened here? I want to delegate this responsibility to one of my colleague. So at that time, how can we make my record to make it visible to the other users here? For that, they have given all these security features to you. So now inside an organization here, inside an organization, if you're having the multiple users are available, in order to make the records to be get visible to the multiple users, we are going to be using that sharing features as well. So for that, Salesforce has introduced all these features to you. So now when coming to the Salesforce, they are going to be maintaining only one set of tables, where in that table, it is going to be storing that organization ID as well as the user ID of that record. So now based on that user ID, based on that organization ID, they are going to be making that visibility here. Suppose for example, whenever if the customer 1, nothing but the user 1, he wants to make a request, nothing but he wants to see all the records from the account table. For that here, we are going to be writing some query also here. So now the user wants to get all the information of the account record, so that he is writing some SQL query. Like he would like to get the ID of the record, name of the record, rating value, industry, annual revenue, active status from account. So nothing but whenever this particular person, user one, is trying to be executing some SQL query in order to fetch the data from that object at that time, while sending this request also, it is sending your organization ID as well as your user ID also here. At that time, it is very fine. Now, for this organization 00D2800, what are the records are available? Only those records will get visible. And from those, what records? Nothing but if the user in the organization ID 00D and 2800, if you're having some multiple records are available. Okay, if you're having some multiple records are available, then at that time, on whatever the records you are having the access, nothing but for these users, what records are visible, what records on which the user one is having the access, only those records will be getting written by default. It won't return all the records associated with that organization. It is going to be indicating on what record this user is having the permission, only those records to be get visible to the user whenever they are going to be fetching the information from that object here. So now for that here, they are going to be maintaining the differentiations. Depends upon the user, they can able to see only those records. For example here, assume that I'm having a banking application. So now, if you want to deposit the money, then I want to go to the bank. When I go to the bank, then I have in the queue. Now there is a long queue there. Since almost 15 to 20 minutes I have stayed in the queue. Now it is my turn to give that form to the counter people, the bank employee. So now I will reach to that bank counter in order to deposit the money. Nothing but the deposit counter I have reached right now. So now I have given all my details into the form, nothing but the deposit form. I fill up all the details, my account number and the account name and the amount which I'm going to deposit, everything. Now that bank employee is going to be entering the account number which I have entered inside the form. They will be using my account number and they will open that account record and they will be depositing some amount here. Not only myself, they can able to see the details of the other customers' account records also. Nothing but as a bank employee, they can able to access each and every customer details, every customer information, every customer's account or ID, and nothing but the account number and the account details and the transaction history, everything they can able to see. But whenever I'm going to be accessing the same application through online, I can able to see only my transactions information. I cannot able to see the other transactions, other person's transactions information. Nothing but what happened depends upon the user, depends upon the role of the user. They are going to be making that visibility here. Application is only one, table is only one, but they are going to be making the differentiation between that records visibility. If I'm accessing the application through the ICICI Bank online application, I can able to see only my transactions information, my account details and everything. But when the bank employee has logged into the same banking application through his credentials, he can able to see all the customers details, all the customers transactions information. In like the same way here, in order to make the security, in order to make the records visibility between the different users, we are going to be using these security features inside the Salesforce. So now inside the Salesforce, it is maintaining only one set of common tables for every organization, where each and every organization's employees information records will be storing inside the same table. In order to differentiate those records, they are going to be using the organization ID, and inside an organization, if you're having the multiple users are there, to differentiate those users, it is going to be maintaining that organization ID and along with that the specified user ID also. Based on that user ID, it is going to be identifying whether this user is having the rights to modify this record or not, whether this user is having the rights to delete this record or not, whether this user is having the rights to view this record or not. We can able to specify those permissions also with the help of the security features. Now, so this is the basic concept why we have to go for that security. What is the need of configuring the security in Salesforce? So now in tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss about how can we create the users information? How can we add the multiple users? Whenever you are going to be adding the users, what needs to be required? So what is a profile? What is a user profile? What it contains? How can we configure the profiles? What type of profiles are available in Salesforce? How can we create our own profile? What is the association of profile with the user? We'll see practically in tomorrow's session. Once the users has been configured, from there we can able to make the records visibility to from one user to another user here. So now we are going to be discussing all this information one by one. like the user management, and how can we deactivate, and how can we freeze the users, and how can we unfreeze the users, and upon creating the user record, what are all the things are mandatory, everything we'll see practically. After that, slowly we can go for that remaining features inside this the security concepts. Okay.
Firoz, if there is one single table, for example, account of like there are 100 customers, 100 organization, the data will be huge, right? So the fetching also takes time. Or they, how did they do? I am surprised to see that.
See,
like one customer in account table have 500,000, like that 10 customers or 20 customers, we have 2 million, 3 million records.
okay. Now, so at that time, whenever you are trying to be accessing the Salesforce application, okay, whenever you are trying to be accessing the Salesforce application here, so now Salesforce is going to providing a virtual copy. Okay, Salesforce is providing a virtual copy to you. So now, assume that I am the organization C1, nothing but the customer 1. You are the customer 2. Another person is the customer 3, and another person is the customer 4. Now all are accessing our applications here. So now in this kind of scenario, every request will be passing through that AP2 region only here. AP2 instance only. My requests are also sending to the AP2 region, and then your requests are also sending to the AP2 server, and other people's requests are also sending to the AP2 server. Because everybody's account is available inside that AP2 server only. So that each and every user request will be sending to that AP2 server. So at that time, how it is maintaining that performance. So for that here, when coming to the Salesforce, whenever if one person is trying to be accessing the Salesforce application, at that time it is going to be creating a virtual copy of that application to you. Okay, it is creating a virtual copy of that application to you. So now this virtual copy means what? This is a application. One copy is available to you. So that here, whenever you are performing any operation, these operations are going to be storing inside the virtual copy, and in the backend, it is going to be keep on synchronizing this information with the database automatically for you. So now, whenever if you are having the single server is available, if you want to give the access to the multiple users, we are using some VMware, or we are using some Citrix tools, which are providing the virtual networks to you, where the people will start off, I am the only user who is accessing that server here. But internally what happened, multiple users are going to be working on the same application, on the same server here. Nothing but if I'm having a virtual copy, then what happened? Now that virtual copy will belongs to only that particular user, so that the user can able to perform the operations very fastly also. Now here also, when coming to the Salesforce, whenever the people are going to be accessing this application, it is creating a separate virtual copy. Now in that virtual copy, your operations are going to be performing over here, and these are keep on internally synchronizing with the database or tables automatically by default. That's how they have implemented that the more faster performance to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Feroz, one question.
Yeah.
You said that each organization will be allocated with some memory, right?
Yes. Yes.
After a period of time, when that organization exceeds their memory space, and when the server is also full, they'll keep on adding a new server. So at that time, how this memory will they transfer the organization from one server to another server, or how it works?
No, they will be maintaining some buffer memory inside that. Okay, they will be having some buffer memory inside that. So now that buffer memory, they are going to be allocating to the customer who wants to extend that. Whenever in future, whatever the memory they have allocated to you, if this memory has been full, if you need some more memory space at that time, now in that they will be having some buffer memory will be there. Because here they will be keep on adding some buffer memory inside that in order to make it extend that existing organization's memory in future. So now they're not transferring that organization from one server to another server. Okay, so because here the whole organization will be available inside the same server, but whenever if you need any additional memory, then they are going to be extending that memory itself to you.
No, my question is when they are done with the whole memory for that server, what will be the
case? That's what here. When coming to the Salesforce itself, when the entire memory space is full, then they will be having some bucket memory inside that. They will be having some buffer. They will be keep on adding some buffer, which is used to allocate to extend that existing customer's memory location.
Oh, okay.
But they won't add any more organizations inside that. But for the existing organization, they will be adding some more memory space. For that, they will be keeping some buffer inside that.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. So in tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss about creating the users. And creating the users is very, very important, because for the entire Salesforce security, creating the users is very basic thing. That is very, very important. If you are done with the users, then only you can able to do the practice of the security concepts, or else it will be difficult to do the practice. Then whenever you are creating the users, we have to do some necessary things are there. While creating the user, we have to create a profile. So we have to do what exactly a profile, what is a profile contains, and how to create a custom profile, what are the various types of profiles available in Salesforce, and how the user will be getting activated, and we'll see practically in tomorrow's session. And how to deactivate, how to freeze the users, what happened in this case, we'll see practically over there. Okay.
Feroz, have you uploaded yesterday's session?
Yesterday's session I haven't uploaded. I forgot to upload that. Actually, I forgot to the record that yesterday's session, the formula fields. I'm having the old video is there. I will be sharing that video to you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, thank you guys. We'll meet on tomorrow again.
Thank you.
Thank you.